Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I had a subscriber ask a question which I will flip in here for you guys. I'll summarize it quickly. You guys can kind of read it yourself, but basically he wants to know, is there any real world advantage, to people getting really strong on barbell movements instead of just using machines or whatever to build their muscle mass? Is it really that important to have to do a 400-pound squat, 500-pound deadlift? Does this carry over into the real world any more so for non-athletes, people who aren't in combat sports, contact sports? They're not boxers, MMA fighters, football players, rugby players. And why is it that so many guys make a mockery of this? Like the guys who you're like, well, you look strong, but you're really not, so it's all fake. And why they make a mockery of it. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, do a little crafting, and let's talk about it. All right, guys. Yeah, as far as the mockery thing, I'll cover that very, very briefly, then I'll get into the nuts and bolts of this question. Because, yeah, absolutely, it can carry over into the real world. Now, the mockery thing, what people need to understand, bodybuilders, people who get into the bodybuilding thing early in life, into that end of training, don't understand why sometimes they get mocked by non-lifters. Well, the reason is historically, all through history, men have exercised to get better at sports, all right? That's generally considered, and I'm not saying, I'm not making a judgment call, I'm not making a moral call as to whether this is right or wrong, all right? I'm just stating the way it has been in most cultures, and at least in America, North America, Western culture. Men have historically worried about their performance more than their appearance. Women generally worry about their appearance more than their physical performance. All right, that is just the way gender roles have been. I'm not making a judgment call there. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, and I'm not saying that you're a female if you worry about your appearance, or you're a male if you're a woman who worries about her strength. That is just historically the way it's been. So, therefore, if you have a guy who is peacocking, and you need to understand that term, peacocking, you're basically, if you're building muscle just for appearance, you're like the peacock, who peacocks to puff up to attract mates, to scare off rivals and everything else, but ultimately it's just feathers. All right, it's the way it would be viewed. And so other men are going to tend to make fun of that a little bit, particularly in all male social circles where they're vying for dominance with each other. And if you've chosen to do purely aesthetics training, and you really can't back up the strength that you appear to have, you could put yourself in situations where other males are going to look down on you. They're not doing it because they're jelly of your gains. They actually are making fun of you. And it's mainly because they don't understand how you put in all that work, and you're not as strong as the football player over there, the athlete. They don't understand why he outperforms you when you put all this work to build all this muscle. They don't get it. Because remember, historically, men have cared about performance, not appearance. It's just traditional roles. So it is going to be seen as a little bit unmasculine. So they're going to kind of poke at you a little bit, just like they'll poke at the guy who acts effeminate. And that's just the way it is. Now, if you're big and strong, it's going to be totally different. They're probably going to have a little more respect. When they know you can back the strength up, guys are going to be, okay, he's not fake. This dude's kind of the real deal. Just like they're also going to be intimidated by a guy who's brutally strong and doesn't even look good. They're going to be just as intimidated by him. That's just male behavior. So, as to the real world carryover, there's real world carryover. You need to understand there are going to be situations that you could be in life to where being stronger, and yes, being stronger from a deadlift is totally different from using machines with straps and training each thing differently. Like if you train your hamstrings with a cable curls, cable machines and stuff, and you use rowing machines for your back with straps, and did shrugs for your traps and everything, and you built your back and hamstring to the same size as someone who got the same size doing heavy ass deadlifts, when you go to pick up something or move something in the real world, it's going to be very apparent there's a difference. And it has to do with using their body as one unit. Because you've trained things to work separately, they're not always going to work together perfectly the way that you want. So when you go to change even a tire on a car, you're still going to have an advantage from using machines. You're still going to be stronger than the average guy. But it is going to be easier to do these things. If you need to pick up something heavy and move it, It's simply going to be easier if you've been doing heavy deadlifts without straps and without a belt and everything else versus the guy who built a similar size doing all this stuff in isolation and using machines and cables and everything, because you're used to using your body as one unit. All right? So there is going to be actual carryover. Yeah, it does matter. It is going to matter in a street fight. In fact, people would say, well, it matters for MMA, but not a street fight. Really? You're telling me a street fight which actually has serious consequences? People get killed in street fights. People get maimed in street fights. People get broken bones in street fights. When you push comes to shove, being stronger is an advantage, all right? Yes, skill matters. Yes, training matters. I'm not saying that. So I don't want people to think that I'm saying that, Ronnie Coleman would have automatically destroyed Bruce Lee or anything here. All right, we need to understand that's not what I'm saying. But even Bruce Lee, does anyone remember what Bruce Lee said about strength? Because he had something to say on that. And I think Bruce Lee's opinion probably matters a little bit when it comes to a street fight. I think he might actually know what he was talking about. Bruce Lee said that in a fight of any type, that when skill is equal, the stronger man will win 8 out of 10 times. That's what Bruce Lee said. So how does that translate to a street fight? You can pull harder, hit harder, use your body as one unit more if you've built up strength using big, heavy barbell movements instead of machines and cables. You can. Are you still going to be strong from the others? Of course you are. Of course you are. I mean, using a machine to chest press with is still going to build your chest and your tricep strength. That still could matter on a punch. If skill is equal, obviously a guy who's actually trained to fight is still going to be able to use his muscle more effectively than you are. Pound for pound, he's still going to be a better puncher. But all other factors being equal, the stronger guy wins. The stronger guy can pull harder, grapple harder, particularly the stronger guy who's done a bunch of deadlifts and rows without straps and gotten real strong on him. You don't want that guy grabbing you and twisting. You really want a guy who deadlifts 600 pounds without straps? Do you really want him to grab a hold of your body and twist you as hard as he can? Think about that. You don't want that. You do not want that at all. But emergency situations, street fights, fist fights, yeah, it could matter. Picking up mail, bringing in all your groceries. And here's the thing. Here's the other way to look at some of this. Okay, yes, it's going to be easier for anyone who's in shape to do these things, but it is going to be even easier for the guy who is truly strong, who has built himself up doing big, heavy barbell movements, full body type movements. It's just going to be easier to do these day-to-day intensive activities. It's going to be easier to rip something heavy off someone in an emergency. It's going to be easier. He's going to expend less energy, and it's going to seem like an easier feat to carry in all 12 grocery bags. It's just going to make these things a little easier. Is it going to be enormously easier? Probably not, but it's a little bit easier. So it does matter a little bit, but definitely emergency situations, it matters. And I think Mark Ripto pointed it out best, that in general, strong people are harder to kill. Yeah, the stronger you are, the denser you are, it is going to be easier for you to survive things like falls. It's going to be harder to break your neck. Falling downstairs, being hit by a car, you're more likely to survive car hits. You're more likely to survive being stabbed. You're more likely to survive a gunshot. Now, that doesn't mean people who lift weights are gun bulletproof or knife proof. But you know what? When you're put in an emergency situation that's potentially lethal, I'll take a 2% higher chance of survival anytime. That's 2%, man. When your life is on the line, every little bit helps. And he did say that and wrote that a few times in a couple different books, and there's truth to that. Strong people are simply harder to kill. They're harder to overpower. Because you know what? Even in a gunfight, even when you've got a firearm, there are times when someone's going to tackle you potentially. You might find yourself in a life and death struggle where someone's going to tackle you. Someone's slashing on you with a knife up on top of you. It's harder to overpower someone who's really strong. They can fight back a lot better if they have to. Hell, it's even harder to rip the gun out of their hands. All right, so, or take their weapon away. It is harder to overpower and kill strong people. They survive better when hit by a car. They survive falls better. So do these things carry over to the real world? Yes. Is there a guarantee they're going to carry over to the real world for you? No. You might go through your entire life outside of the gym, never finding yourself in a fist fight, never finding yourself in a street fight, never having to defend your life or your loved ones from an attacker. You might never get hit by a car. You might never fall down a flight of stairs. You might not ever have to try to carry in 20 grocery bags by yourself at one time. All right, you might never actually have to use your strength. It is totally possible that you might never have to. But you know what? People have to every single day out there. Life is random. You can't control whether those things happen or not. You can't control them. And I would say if you love training and you have a passion for the gym, why not get stronger? Why not work on the big heavy barbell movements? There's no reason not to. When you know that there are advantages like that that could carry over in a wide variety of emergency situations, panic situations, things that just come up, it's to your advantage to be stronger overall. You're already in the gym working out. Why would it hurt you to just get a little better at the deadlift? What's there to stop you from getting a little better at the squat if you're already going to be in the gym lifting weights? Why not get a little stronger? Why not be more the real deal and less of the peacock? What's stopping you? You're already in a gym. You're already lifting weights. Might as well get all the advantages from it. There's no reason not to. It's not even a higher injury rate. People just make that sort of shit up. There's no reason to believe that's true. If you use good technique and good training programming, the injury rates are actually relatively low for even big heavy barbell movements. If anything, too much machine training can cause certain muscle imbalances that could cause you to get injured. I would argue that they're actually riskier in the long term. But again, that's a totally different argument. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.